Welcome to PodNews Room. Today with another exciting podcast episode. Let's get started.
All right, so today we are diving into a story that's making some serious waves. Diddy's recent arrest.
Yeah.
Now, you probably know him as, music legend, fashion icon, life of the party.
Right. This is...
But today's charges are anything but celebratory.
No, they are anything but celebratory. These charges are very serious when you look at what he's actually being accused of.
Exactly. And that's why we're here to unpack this, to go beyond the headlines and really dig into what's going on.
Yeah, because when you start to see terms like racketeering, conspiracy, abuse allegations, even whispers of a potential criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
This isn't just, your average sort of celebrity scandal where, someone was caught for a DUI or got in a bar fight. This is suggesting something much more systematic and serious.
Okay, so let's unpack this racketeering thing for a second.
Right.
For those of us who haven't been to law school recently or ever, what are we talking about here?
Sure. So racketeering, when you see that term, essentially what it suggests is that authorities believe that Diddy, in this case, is involved in a structured, organized criminal operation, right? So not just a single act, but a pattern of activity.
Okay.
And that's where it starts to get really interesting, especially when you then see that his lawyer is coming out swinging, proclaiming his innocence, right? So it's like you have these two very opposing forces, right? You have this very serious accusation, and then you have this very strong defense, and it creates this real wait-and-see scenario.
It does. And this isn't Diddy's first brush with controversy.
Right.
I mean, the article that you sent, his lawyers are adamant, he's innocent, he has nothing to hide. But it makes you wonder how much do past incidents influence public opinion, even if they have nothing to do with these current charges, right? Like, we always see this with celebrities.
Oh, absolutely. And, our understanding of events is always colored by what we think we already know about the people involved and about their past.
Right, exactly.
So it's very hard to separate those things out.
Like that 2016 incident with Cassie Ventura.
Right. The surveillance footage that surfaced back then.
Mm-hmm.
And, whether or not that incident is relevant to this case, legally speaking, it definitely, I think, becomes part of the story in the public's mind.
Right, exactly.
And that's where the power of narrative comes into play, right?
Yeah, because even if we try to be objective, you can't help but see these events through the lens of, what you already... your own personal biases, right? And what you've already seen before.
That's exactly. Right. And it's often subtle, like even in the way that this Miami Herald article that you've shared, like they keep referring to Diddy as this fallen rapper,
right? Or
this disgraced mogul, right?
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't even noticed like how loaded that language is.
Right.
Just in calling him those names, it's like it frames the entire narrative.
It does, right. Because calling him a fallen rapper implies that he was once at a moral high ground, that he's somehow fallen from grace, and it plays into this story of redemption that may or may not be relevant here,
right.
But it's subtly influencing how we perceive this current situation.
It's like they're already writing his biography
yes.
before the trials even started.
Exactly.
And you mentioned the Miami Herald, and I did notice that the article that you sent to their website, and it does feel very like local. Like, is this just standard Miami news, or is there something more to this connection? I mean, Diddy does have that mansion in Miami Beach, right? Like, I don't know if that's common knowledge or not.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a good question. On the one hand, local news outlets often cover stories involving prominent residents, right?
Yeah.
Even if those stories have national implications. So it's not unusual to see the Miami Herald covering this. But on the other hand, Diddy's celebrity status and the severity of these charges mean that this case has the potential to, kind of explode far beyond Miami, right? This could become a much bigger story.
Yeah, and they definitely seem to be leaning into the more sensational aspects of it. Like
yeah.
They mentioned something about freak out supplies being found at his mansion.
Right.
Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, it's unclear, and that's often the point of this kind of language, right? It's meant to sort of pique our curiosity, feed into a certain image, maybe make us think about Diddy in a particular light.
Right, exactly.
Without actually giving us any concrete information.
And then there's 50 Cent's reaction, which knowing 50 Cent, it's probably only fanning the flames.
Of course.
Yeah. Like, it feels like this whole thing could could easily become a media circus.
It absolutely could.
Yeah.
And, again, I think this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with how these narratives get formed, right? Because we have to be careful not to get, so caught up in the spectacle of it all, in the sort of the salacious details,
Right.
that we lose sight of the serious accusations that are really at the heart of this case.
Yeah, you're talking about the allegations of a pattern of abuse.
Exactly.
Those are heavy accusations.
They are. And they point to potential systemic issues, right? Within the music industry itself, an industry where, power dynamics can be very, very complex, where lines can get blurred.
Right, exactly.
And so it's important to kind of keep that in mind as we're following this case.
Okay, so where does all of this leave Diddy right now? Like, what's the current status of the case?
Sure. So according to the article, he's pleaded not guilty, and he's currently being held without bail. He's currently in a detention center in Brooklyn, which I thought was interesting, kind of close to his Harlem roots.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, he's being held as we speak.
Wow. And the article also mentioned that he was placed on suicide watch.
Yes. And, it's important to clarify that that's often standard procedure for high-profile inmates, right?
Oh, okay.
It's not necessarily a reflection of his mental state, but it's just a precautionary measure.
Right. To make sure.
To ensure his well-being.
Okay, that makes sense.
In such a stressful situation.
So what are the next steps then? Like, what happens now? This feels very far from over.
It is just the beginning. An indictment is not a conviction. Diddy is resumed innocent until proven guilty, and he has every right to a fair trial.
So this could be a long and complicated legal battle ahead of us.
It very well could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it's crucial for us, as observers of this case to really try not to jump to conclusions.
Right.
We need to let the legal process unfold, see what evidence comes to light, and, and really let the justice system do its worst.
Absolutely. Innocent until proven guilty. Right.
Exactly.
But even setting aside, like, the legal aspects of this case, I can't help but wonder, like, about the impact this will have on Diddy's image, his career, his whole legacy, like this.
It's the question that lingers, isn't it? Like, will this be a turning point for him? Will this be, kind of a moment of reckoning? Or will this just fade into the background like so many other, celebrity scandals, right? Like how...
It's true. He's definitely had his share of controversy in the past.
Awesome.
But these accusations just, I don't know, they feel different somehow, right? Like
they do. And I think that raises even bigger questions for us as a society, right? About how we hold public figures accountable, how we grapple with allegations of wrongdoing when they involve someone who's also a cultural icon, right?
Right.
Someone whose music we might love, whose products we buy.
Sure. It's
those are tough questions, and there aren't any easy answers.
No, for sure. But hopefully this deep dive has at least, like, given you some food for thought, right? Mm-hmm. Like a new lens through which to view this whole unfolding story. Absolutely.
We always encourage you to stay informed, to question what you read and hear, and to form your own conclusions based on the information that's available.
Well said.
Yeah.
And on that note, I think we'll leave you to ponder these complex issues.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Diddy's arrest and all of its wider implications. And we'll catch you on the next one.
See you next time.